Okay, perfect.
You're doing great. You got this. It's a lot of pressure.
Okay. Cassie? You can call it that. Okay.
So we're ready to go? I think I saw a nod there. So welcome everyone to our first meeting of the new calendar year in Princeton. And I want to start by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Inklakatma and Silk people, as well as the Musqueam, where I happen to be this evening. And of course, our Métis communities who also thrive in both of our communities and valleys. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Trustee Ward.
Seconded.
Second by Trustee Jepson. I think that's where that hand was. Anyone opposed? Carried. Minutes of the open meeting held December 11th. A motion to accept. Moved by Trustee Rayner, seconded by Trustee Kent Laidlaw. Anyone opposed? Carried. And you have in your package the report for the closed meeting held December 11th. That brings us to the Education Committee. I'm not sure, Superintendent Lawrence, which ones, if one was being presented to us or if they are just all in our package tonight.
They're just all in your package for tonight.
Which is amazing.
Isn't it lovely?
Yeah. Yeah, I suggested sharing with the chiefs.
Yes, it would be good to get these. Now that we've got them in the meeting, I would say some of them too we could probably use with our packs as an update because you are now part of the public record.
They've been doing a great job with their reports, whether they're in person or whether it's part of the package. I won't go through the whole thing, but the one thing that I would highlight for the Indigenous report, there's been a lot of work with our girls group and land-based learning, and really making that connection with, that physical piece, connecting back with elders in the community, really developing pride and respect around cultural traditions. So really great work is happening there. And then Shelley's done a really good job of highlighting, especially with pictures, what are all the activities that are happening across our district? I don't know if there's any questions about the Indigenous report.
Mine was only, my hope is to be able to share a little bit of what we have, but does this get shared? I love the idea with chiefs as well, but any of our other partners? Teachers?
Typically,
is it on our website?
Typically, when we do the ISA newsletter, we link that one with, but the individual reports, we haven't been, but it's something we could post on our websites. There's a lot of really good news stories in these ones and really highlights the good work that's being done in our district. So I think that's something that we can look at is putting it on our website or sending it out to different stakeholders. Because not everyone knows where to access the board package, even though it's public. So I think that's a great suggestion, and we can look at that. The next one is our early learning update. The one piece that I would highlight from this one is it's Family Literacy Week, January 27th to the 31st. And there's actually a free concert of Bob and Lolo that's happening at the Civic Center. That's kind of their big wrap up for the week. But this is a great partnership opportunity and really highlights literacy and family connection and putting joy and engagement in together with those pieces. Daniela works incredibly hard as our district vice principal You know, Riverside could probably be a full-time job in itself, and she supports all of our schools. She is a positive, delightful person who comes with such a positive energy and approach. We're very lucky to have her, and she's doing good work each and every day in our school. So I just really wanted to highlight that piece. Is there any questions about early learning? Okay, so looking at our inclusive education report, the one I would highlight is Misty, our Director of Inclusive Education, has been working with Picard. She's completed the first half of a course, and we did it at Central School, and it's really about building capacity within the school itself. So staff, EAs, teachers, our SST, and then she's going to be completing the second round of this course, and next time it's at Diamondville this particular year, but incredibly positive results that have come out of it. You know, we're always looking for new strategies of how do we meet the needs of our kids in our school. And Misty is a living example of, you know what, how do we meet the kids where they are at? How do we bring joy and engagement into the classroom? And she works really hard with parents that have children with inclusive needs to make sure that those needs are being met. And, you know, part of her work is like establishing those strong relationships with families and partner agencies, and she does an amazing job with it. So I just really wanted to highlight our staff. And I should have mentioned for Shelley, this is her last report because she's retiring at the end of this month. And especially our rights holders, but really all of our stakeholders and our staff are sorry to see her go because she's been such a positive light and really worked to create functional and positive relationships, you know, not just in one community, but really across the community. But we wish her well in her retirement. We know that she has definitely earned it, and her husband's retiring at the same time. So, you know, it's a great piece for her. Sad for us, but great piece for her. So
Chair Swan, we have a question. Trustee Rayner.
Yeah, I agree with Shelley. We're going to certainly miss her. But mine's going to the Picard. That must be also very good for the teachers that are getting this training to support.
It's been a great experience because oftentimes, you know, our teachers work incredibly hard, but in that moment, you know, to have kind of that elbow to elbow support, and you know, like I recognize and see like the challenges and struggles. This is how we're going to support. These are the multitude of strategies that we can try. It's been a phenomenal program, you know, and really our school staff have been incredibly open and welcoming because sometimes it's intimidating having, you know, outside people come into your classroom, like open arms and been very receptive to the training. So probably one of the best things that we've done from a professional development point of view and from a student wellness and learning perspective.
It's very good.
Question, Chair Swan. Is it possible to share our thanks to this? This is just both to teachers and our educator that led this. It's just from our point of view, from an inclusivity and an equity piece, and from students and wellness. Like it hits all of the fields. This is great work.
Really good.
It really is.
Let's put together something on behalf of the board, and then I can sign it and either meet personally or we can broadcast it out because I think it's important to cover those successes for sure.
I think that's a great suggestion. I know our schools and our teachers really appreciate when the board is aware of what they're doing, and you know, just that encouraging pat on the back. You know, we need more of that in our world. Right. You know, we always talk about positive energy and, you know, appreciating the pieces. I think that would be a great outreach piece from our board. And I have to say our central staff is incredibly open and welcoming, you know, risk takers in trying different things. And I think it's going to be a really great fit at Diamondville as well to build some capacity there. So just so grateful that we have Misty. You know, oftentimes it's the person that really makes a difference and shines a light, and we're very lucky with the team that we have.
Brings us to then, I think, are we at the anti-racism report? I think.
Yes.
So I would actually, with your permission, like to combine my update on anti-racism and equity as they are quite tied. So the first priority identified by the equity scan was around us becoming an anti-racist district. So the work of the anti-racism plan fits well there. So as has been described before, we are beginning to collect racist incidents and reports of racist incidents and concerns. We are collecting very specific data around what is occurring, who it is occurring between, and what schools' responses are, and as well as what is being done proactively to make sure that it doesn't happen again or to address the pieces. We are, as we gather those reports, we'll start to put together a picture of what it looks like for kids in our district, for adults in our district, because some of the reports have included adult interactions, which are pretty concerning and speak volumes. The McCreary report, the Adolescent Health Survey, has some very direct questions around kids' experiences around racism and what it looks like and feels like in our schools. So as described, we will be working with McCreary Center to amplify student voice, including what racism looks like and feels like in our schools and what kids are saying they want and need. And so that works towards our equity, that works towards us becoming an anti-racist school district that strongly stands up for kids, for all kids. We have been working with school principals around school goals. Every school in our district now has an anti-racism goal added to its plan, and we will be addressing codes of conduct. Every school's code of conduct, making sure that they are wearing what they should be and that there also is clear expectations around anti-racism. And that is a part of our equity scan goals. The other thing that has happened in terms of equity is we are in the process of introducing our new logo. Our new logo very clearly has student voice and has reflects an Indigenous perspective, both in how it's tied to the land, in some of the images and feelings it evokes. So what we're seeing is what we're trying to find is that all the work we're doing is moving in the same direction, and equity and anti-racism are leading the way for us, as they should. So really grateful to the kids, to the staff, to the teachers in classrooms, EAs, plus for everyone who's a part of the team in making our district a good place for all children and all youth. You're not
Just
children.
comments, Chair Swan,
Uh,
Trustee Rayner.
And I'll go after Trustee Rayner.
Yeah, Jane, I think in previous discussions, we talked or some meetings about the social media impact of what's happening. I'm just wondering, obviously coming into our school, but we've got these cell phone bans and whatnot, but is that still quite a detriment to?
I think social media continues to be a multi-headed dragon that we, when you look at the McCreary report and how kids describe not being monitored, right? My parents don't really know what I'm doing for a multitude of reasons. When they talk about their social media use at night, when they're supposed to be sleeping, and when they talk about the levels of harassment, intimidation, extortion, social media continues to be a challenge for kids, for sure, and adults. As well.
And I think a reminder for ourselves too, we are going into a federal election cycle, and certainly we've seen uniting of our country over some remarks of a president-elect who's coming into office in a few days. But I think part of what we're also feeling for that is a certain segment of society is feeling it's okay to perhaps act in ways that aren't appropriate. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we had a few more flare-ups where we have to deal with things simply because, even the media filters have been taken off, where there's no fact checking, and certain things that used to be dealt with by X or with Facebook just aren't now. And so I think when you talk that social media piece, Dave, with some of those filters coming off and people feeling, it's all right for someone to decide that there's an imaginary line between our country and another, and hey, why don't I just take it over? There's things like that in that rhetoric. I think we just have to be aware of that is going to filter into either our parents or our school communities, and just be aware of it and staying on top of it, because it is a different world we're going to be in for the next 4 years, that's for sure.
Why we need amazing students and teachers leading the way. Keep
That's
up.
right.
It's.
Thanks.
If there's nothing else on the racism and the equity scan, we have our 25-26 school calendar.
So this one has been created to meet the ministry requirements. Like has been our past tradition, we have our 3 non-instructional days for Summer Institute that allows us to have a 2-week spring break. These will help us meet our instructional hours as well as all of the other requirements from the ministry. And then if you flip over the page, you'll see that the specific dates are in there for the days that are off, how many days in session, and how many instructional days. So I'm not sure if there are any changes. If we're good with how it is, then we can, once we have board approval, we can send it out to our public, our stakeholders, and our right holders. Because sometimes they see something that we didn't, maybe there's something going on that's a major event in one of the communities. But this would allow us, if we get the motion today, we can send it out for feedback and then bring it back to our February board meeting so that we can submit it to the ministry on time.
And just a reminder that spring break is tied, extended spring break is tied back to Summer Institute continuing. So if something happens during negotiations this year, that could affect our calendar. So the intent is that 2-week spring break is tied to us having those August days for professional development.
Chair, question from trustee Rayner.
No, it's a motion to accept the
Ah.
calendar
A second to the motion?
and
Trustee Hoisington, no one opposed, carried.
And I just want to say thank you to my executive assistant, Simone. She is instrumental in helping us put this together. She's an absolute treasure, and we're so lucky that we have her. She does such great work to support me and the board. So
Yes.
just wanted to share that piece.
All that and looking after John too. No.
Superintendent's report. John's just, he's got his mic off. He can't find the switch there to agree with you, Ev.
So we're just in the process of passing out my superintendent's report, and Secretary Treasurer Richardson is displaying it on the board there. I will not steal all the thunder from the trustees this time because I got a little carried away last month. I have to say, this is absolutely one of my favorite pieces of board meeting because it's a chance to highlight the great things that are going on in our school. And I really have to give a shout out to our administrators. They have really stepped up their game and really highlight wonderful things that are going on. First page, you'll see that we have rolled out our new district logo. So we're changing over, you would have noticed in our board package, you would see the new logo and some new templates. We have signs that are going up at our school. Jane is really leading this logo rollout and she's doing a great job with it. And I think our new logo really speaks to the collaborative nature of our school district and our school division that, especially the voices of children were heard in this process. So it's an exciting time, new year, new pieces. I'm just gonna highlight one thing at each school, just because I like to give a shout out to each of them. Collettville, I had the pleasure of being able to serve at their turkey lunch, and what's happened is, this has become a tradition at some of our schools, and as our administrators move or our teachers move, they're bringing this great tradition with them when they go. Brendan was instrumental in putting this together for his school. It was a great day. I have to say, like, my best days are the days I get to spend with kids and in schools. And they're absolutely adorable. Their hot lunch coordinator really stepped up, did a great job. You're always nervous, are you gonna have enough food? But you know what? And it was nice for us as a central office staff to be able to go out and, have that interaction. Diamondville, the piece I'm gonna highlight for them, they were our school that took the first step to do a Christmas concert at night. And they had changed their format a little bit where they did a school-wide play. And those kids knew their lines, like hit their marks, caused Eric, our head of tech, some stress because he was streaming all of this, but it turned out to be a great night. Heard lots of positive praise from parents about the fact that they were willing to give it a shot and do a night concert, and it was a great turnout. We had extra chairs just because we weren't sure how many were going to come in the end, but they did an amazing job there. And Mrs. Grismore was the one who organized the concert there, and she put in a ton of time and effort, and the kids were super sweet and presented her flowers at the end. But I don't know how much work goes into Christmas concerts, so just a shout out to her. Looking at Nicola Canford, one thing that you will always notice month to month with Nicola Canford, there's always the connection to the land, being outside, and bringing in community members to make that connection. I would say they really excel at this piece. And you know what, the friendship dance, it's truly embedded in the culture of Nicola Canford. It's not an add-on, it's not an addition, it's part of the fabric of the school. And a lot of credit goes to Bert for his hard work with that, but also our teachers that, really want to bring that philosophy forward. It's always an enjoyable day when you go to Nicola Canford. Their kids are super friendly. Vermilion Forks, the one that I would highlight is they were doing some coding in the library, and the librarian, I'm assuming she's a librarian, came in from the public library to support this work. Such a great thing, super engaging for the kids, and also a great way just to bring partner groups into the school. So some really positive things going on at Vermilion Forks. Looking at Bench Elementary, I was able to go to most Christmas concerts in our district, and I was able to attend Benches. One of the pieces that you'll notice at Christmas concerts, there's always like that dead time when you have to get one class on and another class on. And Mr. Denton, who really takes the lead of organizing their concert there, he had Q&A with the kids. So while they're changing out the sets and all of this, and that was a heck of a lot of work to put together. He had interviewed kids from all the different grades. He had asked them questions, and then he had filtered it in. So there was something to keep the audience engaged the entire time. And of course, the kids' answers are super cute. But just our school did an amazing job with their concerts. John Allison, there's always wonderful things going on at John Allison. Such a happy place. Acada 3 has just a different feeling when you walk in that building. One of the things I've been most impressed with, they do a lot of work with STEM and a lot of hands-on learning. And there's really good buy-in amongst their teachers and their staff with it. And Crystal, their principal, is a great cheerleader and supporter of this work. But really some great things going on at JA. I was able to go spend some time. I went to every classroom at JA. And it's just nice to see people that are so committed to their jobs. We have sweet kids in all of our schools, but just the level of commitment and hard work just was lovely to be able to see it in person. And I have some invites to come back and, do some art and some writing and some other things with the kids, which sounds heavenly. Because you know what? I love spending time, especially with our little ones. I'm going to give a shout out to Skies. They have really stepped up their game. And what they did this month is they looked at graduates. Because Skies doesn't have an endpoint like our other schools, like typically, we do a ceremony in June, but our kids can actually graduate once they meet the requirements at any month in the year. And Robert French, one of our teachers there, has really taken on this as his project. Last month he did the pictures of the athletes. This month he's highlighted the different graduates. And I thought this was a lovely idea because you know what, most of our other graduates, they appear in the paper or they're on Facebook, where Sky, it's a little bit more of a quiet celebration, but it's so nice that he's brought this forward. I appreciate his time and his effort that he's put into it. PSS had a multitude of things going on. You know what, whenever you come to this building, what you notice is their staff is engaged, their kids are engaged, they're happy to be here outside of school hours, which are really wonderful things to see. The one that I would highlight is HUD Bay did a $10,000 donation for the shops.
Amazing.
That level of support from the community, it's just absolutely overwhelming. And the fact that they want to support youth going forward. Looking at CLC, I'm going to give them a lot of credit. They really highlight what's going on in our alternate school. And there are a lot of really good pieces going on there, in terms of making real life connections. So when we're doing foods class, it's making food for everyone so that you're able to have those real life skills, doing the shopping, the budgeting, the menu planning. So really great things going on there. And I really like the flexibility of their environment. They do a lot of cross-curricular activities there. There's some really great things going on. And, if you get an opportunity, it's great to pop into CLC. Kids are welcoming, staff is welcoming. John has been in to talk to the kids, and they really enjoyed having a trustee come and visit them. Mm-hmm. So just, sometimes alternate programs are kind of a forgotten piece. But I think we do a good job as a school district, really highlighting all of our different learning environments that we have for our kids. Merit Central is a very busy building. The one I'm going to highlight is their Christmas afternoon, where the entire school participated in different crafts going on. But honestly, I could probably spend an hour talking about the great things that happen in Central, and they do a really nice job of putting together their page for our report to share it out with the community. And then Merit Secondary School, the one that I would highlight, because we talked about the food drive last time, they had a Celebrate Ourselves presentation. Once the kind of joy of the holidays is over, January can be hard for people sometimes, and really celebrating, how do we build self-esteem? How do we come together, and then celebrating unique identities? So really looking at those pieces of, recognizing, some of the struggles that our kids might have and being proactive with it. Doing some great work at both of our high schools. And then there's some additional pictures on the back from MSS. But the piece I would say is our staff are working incredibly hard. There's great things going on in our buildings every day. And even though we've kind of supersized our addition, this doesn't capture the great things that are happening on a daily basis, but just really wanted to take the opportunity to shout out our admin and our teachers. So thank you for letting me share that with you.
Any questions or comments for the superintendent? It was great to see all that positive work happening in all our schools, and just great to see that and that energy. And we know that energy that we see that's infectious with us kids is also coming from our teachers, that is building that out on our administrators to keep those as great learning environments. I think the next one is the non-announcement of the Ministry of Education funding announcement.
Yes, it's always a great segue from an invigorating, exciting report to talking about the budget. Chair Swan, you're right. This memo is just to inform trustees and those watching that we are entering the amended budget cycle, which is on pace to be presented to trustees in February. Although the funding announcement and the budget timeline, which is in the board package, typically we receive the funding announcement mid-December, which provides quite a bit of time for staff to work through the amended budget process and prepare for presentation in February. That funding announcement, we have received confirmation. We'll be receiving that on January 27th. So it's going to be quite late in the month. Even despite that, staff are working on the amended budget, and we will be in a place to be ready for the funding announcement when that occurs, and then bringing the budget forward, presented to trustees in the February meeting.
I think this is the first time, I think in checking with BCSTA, and it's either 35 or 40 years that government has been this delayed in getting the data out to us. So certainly putting pressure on our finance team, and appreciative that within that tight deadline, you're going to get us to our amended budget. So give our thanks to your team, Dylan, because we know that's going to be pushing really hard on them as we try to pull all that stuff together, only getting those numbers on the 28th.
Yeah.
Chair Swan, we have a question from trustee Kent Laidlaw.
Questions for Secretary Treasurer. Do we know why it's a month later than normal this year? Have they given you any rationale as to why that's happening?
So we did, Secretary Treasurers did have a separate call in December when that information was brought forward. And the reason that we were given was that it was due to a change in government process.
That was it.
Yeah.
Specify which
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
it will come up on my board chair's call with the minister tomorrow as well. But yeah, it is a concern for us, making sure there is enough time. The other piece we still don't have is the minister's mandate letter for both education and childcare and for infrastructure. So that's another piece we're waiting on, is we don't know what direction the ministers are being given either, which of course affects our business plan and our strat plan. Statement of financial information report. That's the next one, Mr. Richardson.
Yeah, in your board package, we prepared the statement of financial information, which is an annual report that we put together in accordance with the Financial Information Act. It's an arrangement of several types of financial information, the approved and financial statements, the approved statement of financial information. We have the Financial Information Act submission checklist that's in there, so you can see exactly everything that's in there. Includes the audited financial statements, a schedule of debt, a schedule of guarantee indemnity agreements, statement of severance agreements, a schedule of remuneration and expenses, a schedule of payments for goods and services, and a statement of reconciliations of payments to financial statements, and also a management report. This is public information. In the board package is a link to the statement of financial information that any interested party is able to access.
Do we know if the Minister of Finance has thought about increasing the threshold where we're reporting on individual salaries? It seems to be, as we go through each salary increase, pretty soon it will be every teacher, simply because of the nature of collective agreement increases. And it doesn't seem that that number necessarily moves up with inflation, which causes more work for our staff. So I don't know if they've thought through changing that part of their policy so that their threshold keeps pace with inflation. Because it did hit me this time with that, I think it's $75,000 threshold, the number of people who are now listed now compared to 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a noteworthy point, just given how things have changed even in just the last 4 years. But we haven't received any indication that that threshold is changing.
I've been doing the report for close to 20 years and the limits have been the same.
If there's no questions on the financial information report, you'll notice on some of them, I think we'd originally signed off on parts of it back in September. So a lot of it you've seen before from our previous board meetings. Next is our request for proposal for the external auditors. As you know, our last contract concluded in September. Over to you, Mr. Richardson.
Yes, thanks, Chair Swan. In your board package is a copy of the request for proposal that has gone out for audit services for the board's external auditor. The contract is currently due. The posting is out and will close on February 7th, after which applications will be reviewed with the recommendation coming forward to the board for consideration.
Okay, thank you for that. You'll recall that came from our last board meeting where we had put forward the motion to go to tender again. So good to see it's out there and we'll see where we land. This brings us to policies and Superintendent Lawrence. I believe we've
So-
got, oh, yes, no?
Yes, you're
Yes.
right.
Oh, I thought someone said no, so.
Oh, sorry, nope, you're right. So the policies that are listed in your package are the ones that our policy committee worked through and have recommended to go to the board for first reading. If we're happy with them worded as is, then we will send them out for consultation. So that would be the first part. We have a policy for second reading, which is 3.4 board authority courses. They were just two small feedback points that came from a rights holder. One is we use Indigenous in one place in board authority, and then we use First Nations in another place. Just a question about consistency. My suggestion and what I put in the board package was there was a reason why we used Indigenous at the top and then First Nations later on, but I think to clarify what we might want to do is put in brackets First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, because it can apply to all of those groups, where the later section speaks specifically to First Nations and courses around there. I think that would resolve the feedback that came forward. The other one is they just found that X is distracting for keeping track of the dates. So the only thing I did is, because I recommended those changes, I just put today's date in there as a holder. And then obviously, as we bring it forward, we'll continue to update the date. If we're happy to make those changes just at the board level, then we can send it out for the next round of consultation. If we don't get any further feedback, then it'll go to third and final reading for that policy. And we don't have any policies for third reading right now. And we do have a recommendation for repeal, which is the student suspension policy. And what we've actually done is we've drafted our admin procedure, which will replace that policy. So when we repeal it, the admin procedure will go in place. And we've also brought forward our flag protocol for admin procedure, just because we've had a number of questions this year and just want to make sure that we are consistent in our practice. So probably have to break those up into a few motions, but I'm not sure if there's any questions.
So let's start at the top, and if there's no concern, if we could get a motion to move policies for first read items A through G inclusive.
So moved. Trustee Ward. Second, Kent Laidlaw.
Anyone opposed? That will be carried. Then we have a policy 3.40 board authority courses for second reading and with some minor changes to go out. A mover and a seconder. I think that's Trustee Jepson's hand there and Trustee Rayner. Anyone opposed? Carried. We have none for third reading. The policy for appeal is 503.0 on student suspensions. And as we move that to the operational side on policies, Superintendent Lawrence, our parents also have access to that, correct?
We're gonna publish it on our website, so as
Excellent.
when we take the one down, we'll replace it with the admin procedure. So that it's clear and transparent for everyone and they know where to find it. So because a good admin procedure, like good policy, is available for the public to see. So we don't currently have, these are the first two admin procedures we brought forward. But what we'll see as we go forward, as we bring them to the board for information, then we'll start publishing them to our website.
So is the admin policy on student suspension ready now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to repeal 503 since it's being replaced by the admin procedure.
So moved, trustee Ward, and
Trustee-
seconded by Rayner.
Okay,
We are staying.
anyone opposed? Carried. And we have two for information on our flag, student behavior and discipline, and on our flag protocols. This will bring us to our trustee reports. I don't think I see any student trustees here tonight.
Here.
Okay. I'm just staring at my
You're
screen
just
here.
off camera.
Oh, he's off. Is he next to trustee Jepson?
No,
Other side.
other side.
Other side, okay. So I apologize. Student trustee reports. Oh, I just saw the laptop move.
So maybe I will start. So I sent a message to student trustees through Principal Lawrence, asking them to reflect on the McCreary report. Not asking them to read the McCreary report, but asking them some thoughts around it, knowing that we had discussed it this evening. So it says, the message was, our district participates in the adolescent health survey with students from grades 7 to 12 participating. When you think of your life or your friends' lives, what are the major health or wellness concerns for kids your age? What resources do kids need or want more of? What is working really well for kids in Princeton right now, as far as you're concerned? I then outlined the 7 million topics that the McCreary report refers to, because I was just really curious to hear your reflections on what you think is challenging for kids, what is working really well, and what kids need more of. So, Sophia, would you like to start?
So one of the biggest health concerns are the normalization of vaping and smoking. There's been an increase in the amount of people hanging around smoke with both older and younger grades. Some of the resources that we need in our school right now are guidance counselors. Mrs. Hillman has been managing both the high school and the younger schools. Our high school gets either the morning session or the afternoon session with her, and could only get 10 minutes or 15 minutes with her because there are 10 students that would just want to talk to her. Getting more counselors for the help my peers get the guidance and the support that they need. And I think that the activities or events that we do in school help us a lot, like game days and the learning commons, the presentations that we get to watch at school, gym rides and spirit weeks really brings those together.
Oh, thank you.
Very good.
And Matthew.
I think the most important health and wellness concerns with kids our age is vapes and phones. Vapes are a big health concern in our school right now and is a very dangerous habit to get into. Can cause major health problems, and getting them off strangers, as some kids do, can be more dangerous because you can't trust that they haven't done it. It's very easy for kids to get addicted to them as well because the different flavors, and it's just getting very advertised towards younger people. And another health and wellness problem are phones. Kids scroll on social media for hours, like every day. And this can cause our attention spans to decrease, making it harder to focus in school and having a harder time being away from our phones during class. Some resources kids want in our school is better technology. We have used very slow computers and Wi-Fi in the school, and those are very important things in our modern day schools. Another resource kids want is busing for field trips and sports. I have a basketball tournament on the weekend and we don't even have a bus to take us there, so. Some things that are working well for kids right now is our sports programs. Sports in Princeton are very popular and are enjoyed by a lot of students and get them active throughout the week.
That's great. Thank you so much. So one of the things that we talked about earlier is that kids from K to 7 in our, or K to 12, 7 to 12 in our district participate in the adolescent health survey. And one of the things that we're going to do is have the McCurry Society, who are the people that run the survey for us, come to Princeton and Merritt and work with kids on what kids have told us and then what kids want to see happen because of these results. So you have started this work for us tonight, and you will be really critical leaders and advocates. And I really look forward to bringing you as trustees who step up every second month and all year long to lead that work and help us understand better what kids need. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Question, trustee, comment, trustee Rayner?
It's not really comment, but I thought we had a bus here for.
The Rebel Ride.
Yeah.
There is a field trip bus. I think what it is the cost is prohibitive for the team to use it. So some of the ways the schools save money is they'll get parent drivers. Because the cost per kilometer is pretty prohibitive. And we can't afford to subsidize it as a district, so what it costs us is what we charge. So I think that's a way that they're still able to get into our tournaments because the cost of the bus impacts how many they're able to go to.
As we move to our BCST AGM, that may be another one, Trustee Laidlaw, that we may want to talk with districts about is that an equity for small rural areas to participate. It simply costs more. You know, if you're in the Okanagan or in Kamloops, which are our closest two areas, you can have tournaments there without having to go anywhere. The same with the Lower Mainland, where we know in order for our kids to compete and get the fullness of that, there just is a higher cost for rural areas. So something else we may want to be talking to government about as an investment, as opposed to an expense. Once again, like on behalf of the trustees, thank you for the information you gave back for those questions that the assistant superintendent provided you with. It's always amazing, and you keep us grounded and letting us know what's important for students in the district. So I thank you for that.
A question, Chair Swan, just around guidance counselors and maybe peer mentoring or some sort of service to bridge the gap if there is no magical wand to create a new guidance counselor to offer supports. Is there technology available to us, which I know other districts are reaching into, a teleport sort of situation where in time the student could have the concern? Is there options for our kids? And maybe I'll just leave it with the team, but I just want you to know we hear you. And again, with the sports, how vital sports are to kids. But this guidance counselor piece, I've heard it time and time again. And I'd like for us to be able to come back to you with, you know, what are we going to do about this? We've asked you for information, and I'd like to see how can we be creative to support students in their request? So we've asked, what are we willing to do about it? Okay, is that fair, Jane and Courtney? Absolutely. Yeah.
And there may be some possibilities with that new child and youth position that we got the funding for, because that covers the district plus covers our band school. So that may be another way, thinking outside the box of how we utilize that without as much windshield time as maybe normally necessary. So certainly something we can look at there as we start working on that program as well, because
And perhaps
we've
with
got that as whole community, right?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
If there's no other questions, I will move us to trustee reports, and I'll start with trustee Chenoweth, because last time when he was online, I forgot about him and he was very sad.
We just had a brief Skides PAC meeting tonight. And they're the same. The parents are trying to support students from all over the province. And they do so very, very well. And as the slideshow that Courtney shared, they do really celebrate their students no matter where they are, and they do a fantastic job. And the PAC is very instrumental in recognizing students and also doing things for students no matter where they are. And I shared this before, but like book sales, book purchases, and spiritware, things like that. At Collaville, we had a meeting for Christmas, and again, they are very organized fundraising machine to do things with their students, i.e. ski trips, the trips to Quebec, their Carnival week that is coming up, skiing, things like that. But they did raise a couple of questions that I'd like to bring forward. And one is, when PACs do fundraising, they wondered if there's any policy that determines how do grades or classes fundraise, and are there any policies helping them restrict those funds if it's a grade 6 class and then a grade 7 class, because they do a Quebec trip, they try to do it every year. The classes start a year before, and they just like to know if there's any policy work that we've been working on that could help them in that. Is there any policy work? That's just a question, and I'll probably put that in an email to Jane and to Courtney, just to support that if there is anything. And they also, something else we talked about was, it came up at the Collaville, but it was about the public health and MSS. And they were just wondering that, a lot of the parents felt their kids are moving there. They understood that the public health nurse doesn't go to MSS anymore, and they're thinking that a letter from the school board to Interior Health might support to nudge the Interior Health folks to move back to that. And I said I don't know anything about the public health nurse at the high school. I think Gordon would know more, and as well as Jane and Courtney. But that's something they raised. Is there something that the district could do as a board to help lobby for that? And that's it. Thanks.
I think that is something we did years ago, John, when Interior Health said it was a space issue, and we kind of said, we've got space for you. Like, if that's your issue, we've got a room for you. So
Right.
I think we can be good for us to talk with Interior Health and see what the impediment is and how we can do that both at the north and south end of the district, because it's the same health authority. But if it's a matter of space or time, we can work all that out. The logistics is simple. We've got the space and the capacity, and in terms of adolescent health, I think it's important that
That's important.
they're in the schools.
So that's what was reported on those two. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Swan, we have a question from trustee Kent Latham.
And you did speak to it, having it at both the north and south ends of the district, but maybe that would be something, a creative move that would help to get additional supports in the school, like our student trustees talked about. It's not necessarily a counselor directly, but maybe having a health practitioner in there to answer questions or support kids when needed might be something really useful as well. And we could use that as an angle to talk to Interior Health.
Hey, Gordon?
Also, Assistant Superintendent Kempston has a point.
And then I think John had his hand up again, and then I'll throw something in as well.
So I'm not sure I was around when it was first determined, but what I think happened is that COVID meant that all public health was pulled back into COVID response. The other piece that I think, in addition to the space, it wasn't just space, it had very specific parameters, but you needed to have a doctor sponsor. So a doctor was actually facilitating nurses being in the schools, and I think that was where Princeton, perhaps there wasn't even a practice for that, and I don't know if the doctor who was facilitating that on the north end is still practicing, or if he's available, but I think it was the doctor piece, because when we went to Revelstoke, they were talking about the services they had, and it was very tied to the doctor in the clinic, so that maybe it's worth exploring, but that might be, I think it was COVID that stopped it. And then the doctor piece that was really challenging, because doctors and practices we can't keep emergency rooms open, so, but it's worth investigating, and we will
It is,
get back into it.
and just in support of that, Jane, I know today at a meeting, local health authority mentioned there's 400 unattached participants just in Princeton alone.
Yeah.
We're in a severe doctor shortage right now, so there could be a bit of a struggle.
I think there's a tie in with all of them.
And it'd be worthwhile talking to Revelstoke, because last I checked, they are part of Interior Health. I know they don't have the struggle of finding doctors in Revelstoke, but certainly if we can get some bits and pieces from them to build on to go, you know, because they've already built the model there for sure as Interior Health. Trustee Rayner.
What?
Oh, no, Trustee Chenoweth, sorry.
Thanks, Gordon. I was just gonna mention that our tour of Revelstoke, really inspiring to see the services they have for students there. And is there a way for little old Nicholas Milkameen to have something similar in both communities? I think it would warrant maybe a reach out to the medical community, Interior Health, and see what we can do. Just for the health and well-being of all our students. Anyways, thanks.
And I think that's a piece of working together, John, because I know originally on the space side, they got an extra 20% funding for space when they built the high school and the secondary school. So I'm sure there's some ways to work with models, and we just have to put our heads around it to find out what the barriers are and knock those down. And I think we could work with our bands as well on that. I think there's synergies we could do.
Interesting you say that, and it just made me think of John visiting Upper Similkameen. When I did a visit there, they have a really wonderful future, like funding or community health practice built right there. And so I wonder, John, if they wouldn't be a really good arm to reach out to as well. I know one of our local participants, our local residents, Lindsay Bishop, runs the medical center there, and she's been a spearhead of like this very innovative community health practice model, which looks a lot like what Revelstoke did. So that might be a really healthy reach out as well.
Yeah, and First Nations Health as well. Thanks.
Okay. Next report will be Trustee Kent Laidlaw.
My report's pretty short and sweet because we haven't had a meeting in the new year yet. It's coming up in about 2 weeks. Otherwise, the high school itself, as we could see in the pictures in the superintendent's report, lots of really exciting things happening coming up. There's hopefully a ski trip up to Apex. Basketball is in full swing. I got to poke my head in on the boys team playing earlier this evening, and they're all very tall. Very tall. And the girls are really doing well as well, not as tall, but very good. They're a lot of fun to watch. What I've really noticed while I've been at a couple of these games is just how supportive the school is of each other. A lot of the girls were at the boys game this afternoon watching them. Whenever I've gone to the girls game, there's a lot of other students there watching them, and so I just really enjoy the school spirit aspect of that. And you know, my daughter's on the team, and she's constantly, I think she was at a basketball event every day last week, so she just stays and helps out. And I really like seeing that the kids are really engaged and involved and committed to the teams that we do have here. And it's just a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, that's essentially my report, which is
Next month.
next month.
And I will touch briefly on MSS. Their meeting was yesterday. Their Lit 12 assessment catch-up was yesterday, as well as their French Immersion 12 assessment. The grade 10 numeracy assessment takes place this next week. The curling team is currently off to the Okanogans for playdowns this week, which was great to see. And arts performances are being held at the end of the month, which will include drama, an art show, and a band concert. So great to see all of that happening. And then just before we broke for winter break, they had a spirit week with themed dress-up days, a winter dance, Find the Hidden Elf, and a couple other things. So it was great to see that. And they also had Frostival event on the last afternoon before winter break, which included musical performances, singing, dancing, and skits, which was led by the leadership class. So great to see all those things happening at MSS. And we'll go to Trustee Jepson next.
Neither Downville or Central has had a PAC meeting since our last board meeting. But I did attend both of their Christmas concerts, which were a success. So they both of them had a ton of fun with it. They look different and great in their own ways, kind of like Courtney was referring to earlier. All different schools kind of had a different feel, but they were all individualized and all a fun evening for parents and students. So yeah, hopefully in the next board meeting I'll have some more to report about the act specifically. But schools are having or enjoying back to school after holidays. So that's it for me.
And Trustee Rayner.
Okay, mine was last night. I was unable to go to it, but I did receive a letter. I'm gonna read it here from the PAC. Well, I won't read it all, but it's from Christy Reeves, the president of the PAC, and it goes to the concerning developments of the YMCA run daycare that we're gonna have here, and it speaks to the extra costs that is gonna come on to parents and the out of school care costs are increasing. I know this has a lot to do with what Little Seeds have done in the past. And then they also brought up another point about strict 5 o'clock pickup, and whereas before it was 5:30. So I think we have some, as a board, some board deliberation to do with the Riverside and daycare, and hopefully the federal government on the daycare. And fortunately for me, it wasn't all bad news, because Superintendent Lawrence gave a great report. AE. Thank you. That's it.
I have a question about that, Chair Swan.
Go ahead.
Just around sort of the operator, which will be the Y, in terms of governance, who is us. Is there a bit of a messaging that a trustee, because I'm assuming you've got an email back to that was an email,
Email to me,
right?
from the PAC.
So yeah, there may or may not be an action required. If you forward it to your chair and perhaps it's new water for all of us. So and it really feels like this will be the operations of a subcontractor, the Y, and not entirely board business.
Well,
So
the Y is the contractor. We've done an agreement with
That's
them,
right.
and I think
But just educating that parent
Yeah.
and that parent group.
Yeah, and I think the Y has indicated, or did last time, that as an organization, they're probably going to be subsidizing it themselves the first few years until it gets up to speed. But I think we just have to remember we're supplying the capital, the infrastructure, but we don't actually have a say in their costing model. That's part of, and I'm sure you're quite right, Trustee Rayner, that Little Seeds was probably charging less, and but I think we also have the employees are going to be paid a living wage, which of course is going to cost things as well. But that may be a piece to talk with the Y about how they engage with the community on that new facility as it, we're thinking it's April, May when it will be up and running. But just a reminder that we're not actually operating it. That is the Y that will be responsible for running that center. Think I'll probably go to Trustee Hoisington next because he probably doesn't want to follow Trustee Ward.
Oh, and I got nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just kidding. So Nicola Canford had their PAC meeting that was booked for this past Monday, but they weren't able to get enough people to turn out, so they pushed it to this coming up Monday, so I'll be there for that. I did also, though, I want to share that I attended the Christmas concert at Nicola Canford, and it was really well received, and it was packed. Like, I couldn't believe how many people were there in the middle of the day, right? And it was excellent. The other buzz around Nicola Canford right now, I know, is science fair. Everybody's starting to dive into their science fair projects and the hopes and dreams behind that, which drives all that. So lots of buzz about that, as well as the basketball has started in our elementary schools as well too. So that's always a fun thing. So.
There was a time when we had some of the science fair kind of present to the board. I still remember that. It's been so cool. So
cool.
If you can go, I don't know.
And they're always looking for regional judges too, that can be trustees. Just having done that, I'll just throw that out for you guys.
Not if they've seen my.
It means you telling a small grade 5 child that they didn't win, but you know.
No, I didn't think so.
The other one I'm just going to touch on, because it ties into Nicola Canford, and just to acknowledge, we heard from the chiefs just the work that Trustee Hoisington did, and Trustee Jepson with his other hat with MOTI. You know, we might think that little flashing light that sets up the crosswalk isn't a big thing, but we certainly heard from the band that seeing that was big, and seeing the community come together. And so the work that you guys did with community to get that there was certainly expressed as appreciation. And I think just we need to publicly acknowledge that too.
Well, and to add to the board itself, like we couldn't have done that work without the support of this board as well, right? So the senior leadership. So thank you.
Right on.
And that brings us to Trustee Ward.
It was so funny because there's not a Vermilion Forks PAC date till February. So this whole time I'm like, hello. So coding, I think Superintendent Lawrence talked about our librarian being a guest visitor to grade 5 students. I also had our guest librarian come in, and she raved about Vermilion Forks. Okay, so just to let you know, it goes both ways, how amazing and how, you know, lit up kids were. And I will tell you that our Katie Fry, who is our librarian, has a master's of library sciences. I'm like, you're for real librarian? She goes, oh, I went all the way. And she's just fantastic. So she's always looking for opportunities to come to school. So I just thought I would lend that to all the local PACs here. And she was just fantastic. So that was my one little 2 cents. I'll be meeting February. We'll give a little update, but just sort of hands up to our community partners, and bravo to Vermilion Forks for constantly being this warm and welcoming school, and little busy learners and great staff. And I know they've been going through a bit of a time. So just to continue to support. So good work, Vermilion Forks.
Thank you, Trustee Ward. Any other reports?
Yes. Yeah, I have the transportation meeting we went to there. Gordon.
Yes.
Anyway, I went to the town council at a COW meeting and committee as a whole, and with me was Mr. Richardson, Secretary Treasurer, and Mr. Finnegan, the operations manager, and we gave our quick presentation to them about the difficulties of transporting students in and about the town. And after our report that which Secretary Treasurer Richardson gave good background information of what we've been going through the last 3 or 4 years with changing routes and dollars not coming in. Anyway, the bottom line was they spoke at the same meeting after we spoke, and I think that Dylan was going to send out this brochure that they've been working on since 2017 with the South Okanagan Smoking Transit System. And all the communities are trying to ramp up transit, and the town of Princeton is trying to get, I think, a city bus in the works for the town here. And you also presented the position that we would be happy to have a member on a committee, ad hoc committee, if they decided. And I think it went pretty well. I think they've done a lot of work that over the last 7 years, so kudos to them, and hopefully it gets done. And Dylan,
I think the one thing I'd just add is the Mayor Coyne just expressed his thanks to the Board of Education by us coming to present. Shows that trustees are very much interested in working with the town. And yeah, so they're quite moved by that and excited that they're one of the participants.
yeah, so hopefully something will move forward with this.
Are we able to give that feedback to the one parent who, I believe it was Shauna, who initiated, like, what are the next steps? Wonder if that would be good
Yeah.
feedback?
Yeah,
or-
sure.
Okay,
I
or
don't think I do it. I think it would be better.
Certainly, if there's any assistance we can give to the town with UBCM, because that's an opportunity they have to meet with ministers, I think we'd be willing to work with them on that file as well.
Oh, yeah, and just to add, at the end, they also said that if Mr. Finnegan could stay in touch with Lyle Thomas at the office there, and they will coordinate, and we presented them with a lot of data on where our students are residing, and so hopefully they can work something out.
good work.
That's
Thanks, team.
it.
Thanks, Dave. I don't see anything in our correspondence file. And I'm not aware if we have anyone online for public question period. I didn't see any questions in the chat. So given that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move forward.
Okay.
Seconded by Hoisington. Anyone opposed? So we'll reconvene in a couple of minutes to continue our other meeting. So I will sign out of here with